The rise of Eight Tray Gangster Crips in Baltimore, Maryland. From California to Baltimore, the Eight Tray Gangster Crips built an empire of drugs and violence. But it all came crashing down. Ride with us as we go on another Crush Unit road trip. The Eight Tray Gangster Crips started in Los Angeles back in the 70s. By the 2000s, they'd set up shop in Baltimore. That's where Trayvon Hall, aka True or G True, came into the picture. This guy wasn't just any member, he was running the show in Baltimore, Maryland. These EtG Crips weren't playing around. They took over neighborhoods like the Baltimore Hilton, Lexington Terrace, and Frankfurt Sinclair. How did they do it? Good old-fashioned violence and intimidation. It was their turf, and everyone knew it. Their business was drugs, and lots of them. They sold whatever would make money, and they didn't take kindly to outsiders trying to muscle in. If you weren't ETGC and you tried to sell on their turf, well, let's just say it didn't end well for you. The brutal reign of Trayvon Hall. Muscling on their turf, that was a death sentence. But for Trayvon Hall, leader of Baltimore's Eight Tray Gangster Crips, dealing with outsiders was just a warm-up. His real power play? It involved a trip to LA, a string of murders, and text messages that'll chill you to the bone. Trayvon Hall, known on the streets as True or G True, wasn't some low-level gangbanger. He was the boss, the OG of the back west EtG Crips in Baltimore. These guys weren't playing around. They modeled themselves after the Los Angeles back west EtG Crips. Back in 2013, Hall took a little trip to California. It wasn't for the beaches or Hollywood stars. Nah, he was there to meet with the West Coast leaders of the EtG Crips. This wasn't just a social call. Hall was there to get official approval for his Baltimore set. Think of it like a franchise deal, and they wanted a trusted brand to sell drugs. Now, Hall didn't just talk the talk. He walked the walk, a walk that left a trail of bodies. July 18th, 2016. That's when Hall decided to take out Albert Pittman, a member of the rival Black Guerrilla family, or BGF. If you know BGF, then you know this was a power move. But Hall was just getting started. A few months later, on November 11th, 2016, Hall struck again. This time, he killed another BGF member, Shaheem Brown, and wounded two others. You'd think a guy who just committed murder would lay low, right? Not G True. He sent out a series of text messages, bragging about what he'd done. In these messages, Hall wrote, quote, "I had just bashed the monkeys. Wasn't expecting me be out early. LMGCAO." End quote. That last bit, it means laughing my gangsta crip ass off. Yeah, this guy was laughing about murder. But Hall's reign of terror didn't stop there. From 2017 to 2019, he turned his sights on the Abington Avenue drug trafficking organization. It was all about respect. This beef led to even more bloodshed. On July 6, 2018, Hall opened fire on members of the Abington Avenue crew. Stephen McKnight ended up dead, and another person was wounded. For Hall, it was just another day at the office. Hall's story is a stark reminder of the brutal reality of gang life in Baltimore. This was not some low-level street beef. It was a calculated campaign of violence, all aimed at maintaining control over the drug trade and asserting dominance over rival gangs. The digital gangster, social media, and street cred. Gang violence isn't just about physical confrontations anymore. The Eight Tray Gangster Crips found a way to flex their muscle from behind a screen. But this digital flexing came with a price they never saw coming. Back in the day, gangs would mark their territory with graffiti and show off their power through face-to-face intimidation. But times have changed, and the Eight Tray Gangster Crips were quick to adapt. They took their gang culture to the digital world, using social media as their new platform. These guys weren't just posting selfies and food pics. Nah, they were using platforms like Facebook and Instagram to assert their dominance and scare off rivals. Imagine scrolling through your feed and seeing a video of gang members flashing guns and low-key threatening anyone who dared to cross them. That's exactly what the ETGCs were doing. They'd post photos and rap videos showing off their firearms, making it clear to everyone who was watching. Mess with us and you're in for a world of hurt. It was like a digital version of the old school drive-by, except now they could reach way more people without ever leaving their block. This online presence wasn't just about looking tough, it was a strategic move that boosted their street cred. In the gang world, reputation is everything, and social media gave them a megaphone to shout their status to the world. Every like, every share, every comment was like a digital nod of respect or fear. But here's the thing about putting your criminal activities online. It's not exactly the smartest move when it comes to staying out of jail. The EtG Crips social media flexing might have scared their rivals, but it also caught the attention of the folks they really should have been worried about: law enforcement. All those posts bragging about their criminal activities? Yeah, turns out that's pretty solid evidence when you're trying to build a case against a gang. The FBI was watching, and they were taking notes. Every post, every video, every threat was another nail in the coffin for guys like Trayvon Hall and his crew. But the impact of this digital gangsterism went beyond just providing evidence for the cops. It had a real effect on the people living in these neighborhoods. Imagine being a regular person just trying to live your life, and you see these threatening posts from the gang that controls your block. It's no wonder people were scared to even go outside anymore. Jennifer C. Boone, special agent in charge of the FBI Baltimore field office, put it best when she said, quote, "One of the defendants said that the people who lived in one of the neighborhoods were too scared to come outside anymore. We cannot and must not accept this," end quote. This culture of fear and silence is exactly what gangs like the EtG Crips were aiming for, and social media helped them achieve it on a whole new level. The fall, justice catches up. The streets of Baltimore were a battlefield, and the EtG Crips seemed to be winning the war. But in the shadows, a network of high-tech tools and community cooperation was forming. What unlikely alliance would finally tip the scales of justice and bring the gang's leaders to their knees? Enter Project Safe Neighborhoods, a program that's not your typical law enforcement initiative. It's like mixing oil and water, community engagement with hard-nosed policing. But somehow it blends well. The idea? Build trust in the community while cracking down on the bad guys. It's not rocket science. It's simple but effective. Now let's talk about the ATF's National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN for short. It sounds like something out of a spy movie, but it's real and it's spectacular.
They're real and they're spectacular.
This tech links firearms to multiple crime scenes. It's like CSI, but without the dramatic music and fancy montages. NIBIN was the secret weapon in the fight against the EtG Crips. It helped investigators connect the dots between seemingly unrelated crimes. Suddenly, the gang's violent activities weren't just isolated incidents. They were pieces of a much larger, more sinister puzzle. And at the center of that puzzle, Trayvon Hall, aka True or G True. Remember him? The big boss of Baltimore's EtG Crips. Well, his reign of terror was about to come to an end. The charges against Hall read like a grocery list from hell. 3 homicides, 3 non-fatal shootings, racketeering, drug conspiracy, the works. His co-defendant, Marcus Williams, wasn't far behind. In a recorded conversation, Williams was caught discussing plans to murder BGF members. Not exactly pillow talk. When the hammer of justice finally fell, it fell hard. Hall got slapped with 454 months in federal prison. That's over 37 years. For those of you keeping score at home, Williams, he got off lighter with 87 months. But in federal prison, there's no such thing as parole. As U.S. Attorney Robert K. Hur put it, quote, "These defendants now face decades in federal prison, where there are no suspended sentences or parole, ever," end quote. Ouch. But the story doesn't end there. Recently, 10 more alleged members of the EtG Crips got hit with federal indictments. Charges include racketeering, drug conspiracies, and murder. It's like whack-a-mole, but with gangsters. The aftermath, Baltimore's ongoing battle. The Eight Tray Gangster Crips left a mark on Baltimore, to the point that the city's nickname of Baltimore, Murderland, was set in stone. Even with the big dogs behind bars, the fear they spread will continue to linger. People in these neighborhoods, they're still looking over their shoulders, too scared to speak up about what's going on. But the cops and community leaders aren't giving up. They're teaming up, using high-tech tools and good old-fashioned community policing to fight back. It is a slow process, though. Trust doesn't come easy when you've been living in fear for so long. Here's the thing about gang violence. It's like a nasty cycle that's hard to break. It is a powerful, violent energy, almost karmic. Kids grow up seeing this stuff, thinking it's normal. Before you know it, they're caught up in the same game. Breaking that cycle is a real challenge for these urban communities. It's not just about locking up the bad guys. It's about changing the whole system. Thank you for watching another Crush Unit video. If you want to hear a story of a rolling 60s Crip who outsourced bank robberies, click here. Peace.